And another thing that people believe is that, because they have an Instagram account that they automatically, own their name or, whatever they're calling their business. Guys, these internet streets, it's not, this isn't gang life. You're not marking your territory. You need to legally, yeah, you need to legally apply, for names to have them trademarked.
Hi, friends, and welcome to the Next Best Thing podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Cline-Thomas. I'm here to help you create strategies to navigate your career and life transitions. And as we like to say around here, a pivot and a plan B are not required. Now, before I dive in, can you just help your girl out and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode? Also, do you know that we have a newsletter launching this month? It's called Next Nuggets, where I'll share some gems from this podcast along with other resources to get you from where you are to where you truly want to be. Go to the nextbestthingact.com. Again, the name of the podcast, act.com. The Next Best Thing, act.com. Scroll down to the bottom and sign up. Have you considered entrepreneurship as part of your next? Whether it's a side hustle or a brick and mortar operation, our guest today is going to make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's. Natalie Pierre-Louis is a corporate attorney and business formation consultant. She's also a friend. We went to college together, and she's who I called when I began launching into my next. Now, this is the episode I wish I had last year when I was getting started. It's your one-stop shop to learn all about the paperwork you need to set up your business, how and when to protect your intellectual property, and the clauses you need to protect you in your contracts. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today and for getting us together.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm really glad that, you thought of me to be on your platform.
And not just on my platform, in my life, girl. You're my go-to. I don't know what I'm doing. Natalie, let me get on your calendar, girl, because I have no clue what's going on. So let's start there, too, because just because somebody is selling something does not mean that they have a business.
Right.
What makes like a legit business?
Yeah.
What are the elements of a legit business?
One of my favorite phrases to say is an Instagram account and Cash App do not a business make. So while, you can make money, you don't necessarily have a business. If you want to have a legit business, there are some steps that you need to follow. You have to register your business, like with the state and with the federal government, because you're going to have to pay taxes, and you're also going to want your deductions. So you need to register for your taxes. You're going to need to get your you need to have your EIN number. You need to have your business entity set up. You need business bank accounts. You shouldn't be running your business from your personal bank account, especially if you want that legal shield for your personal assets. You also need to have intellectual property in place and make sure you're not violating intellectual property. Like these days, it's really easy to get into business, but unfortunately, while we are a country that says we are built on small business, we don't teach people how to properly run one. So, one of the things that I encountered when I first started my business was a lot of rampant trademark infringement. People had no idea what I was talking about. So making sure you're not, using Coco Chanel's labels on, your trinkets so they don't come after you and sue you. And also protecting your own intellectual property, because I know that there's lots of creative people out there, you included, who are, making these amazing things, and you don't want someone out there to just scoop it up because, they had the foresight to trademark it before you did.
So that is so good, because we're going to go ahead through and break it all down. But people needed to understand that just because they go to some place and they're buying something doesn't mean that somebody has like a legit business. So let's go back, and you're talking about filing your business with the state and federal government. How do people go and do that?
So, just like you have a social security number as a person who lives in the United States, your business also needs a social security number, right? And that's called your EIN number. That's something that you get from the federal government. There's a website. It takes like 15 minutes tops. Um, and it's just basically you're telling the government, hey, I'm here, I'm doing something, right? Then and you need to tell the government what kind of business entity you have, be it LLC, corporation, whatever it is. What type of business are you running and who you are. You have to do the same thing at the state level as well. But it's a little bit more nuanced because depending on the type of business that you're running, your state or your county, wherever you're registering, may have further requirements for your business. So making sure that you have all of that lined up when you are registering your business with the state, right? Once you have those in order and your business is registered, you also want to okay, so we're doing the registration piece. Let's stop there. So you've got your EIN number, you've with the federal government, you've registered with the state. Those of you who are trying to get your products into big box stores, another number that you're going to need is your DUNS number. That number, it's basically your credit report in the business world. It tells people, do you pay your bills on time? Are you a good supplier? Things like that. And if you are interested in government contracting, you're going to need the SAMI number, which is something, it's relatively new with the federal government. They used to use the DUNS number, but because Duns and Bradstreet was like, well, you can't get the data behind the numbers, they're like, well, we'll create our own. So the federal government now has their own identification number for you to apply for federal contracts.
Got it. What's the difference between when you're setting up what business entity that you want to choose between an LLC, an S corp? How do you know which one to choose?
It depends on one, how many people are involved, and two, what type of business you have. The best way to choose the right one, in my opinion, is to find a CPA, some type of accountant, let them know what kind of business you want to start, and they're going to be able to help you choose the best one that is more tax beneficial for you, right? But coming from my legal standpoint, you want the business entity to shield your personal assets. So that's what I'm looking at with the business entity. So an LLC is really great for someone, who is, maybe making tumblers out of their home, or making jewelry, things like that. Now, if you are going to be running a store where you're going to have employees and you're going to be paying wages, you're going to want to set that up as an S corp so that you can get all of the deductions that you need. But the type of business entity, really, you should discuss that with an accountant to figure out what the best one is for you tax wise, not just legally. And within the corporations, you have C corp, you have S corp, you also have B corp, because we know that a lot of businesses out here are now having to have part of their mission is social good. So that's another option these days. So your business entity options are slowly but surely growing.
What are the biggest mistakes that you see people making kind of when setting their stuff up?
Thinking that they have a business because they have an EIN number. It's not. Your EIN number is just literally a social security number. If I take my social security number to the supermarket right now, what are they going to do with that, right? It just tells them that I exist.
Right.
And another thing that people believe is that, because they have an Instagram account, that they automatically, own their name, or, whatever they're calling their business. Guys, these internet streets, it's not, this isn't gang life. You're not marking your territory. You need to legally, you need to legally apply, for names, to have them trademarked, to have your work copyrighted for my creatives out there. There is still the myth going around about the poor man's copyright, where you mail your work to yourself. That That does not apply these days. If you don't have a copyright, the court is not even going to listen to you.
Mhm.
So making sure that your intellectual property is in order is very important. Understand that your Instagram account is not legally admissible. I mean, unless you're like someone who, you've amassed a huge following, you got like 10 million followers or whatever. Yeah, but if you're just starting out in your business, you got like 3,000 followers and, you're selling bracelets. Um, I don't know, Shannon's Bracelet Emporium is not trademarks,
Mhm.
you need to really make sure that that is legally locked down.
When you're talking about the trademark, okay, trademark, patent, copyright. What can be trademarked? What can be patented? What can be, because it's all different.
Yes, exactly. So trademarks, they'll protect your business name. They are the brand. So when you think Gap, Exxon, Beyonce, um, names of brands, those are trademarked because a trademark represents your brand of goods in the marketplace. It's your stamp. It's like when people see that Gap label, they know what type of clothes they're getting. When they see that Tiffany's label, they know what type of jewelry they're getting, right? So those are trademarks. Now, copyright, that protects your creative works. So if you write a book, if you write a poem, if you are an artist, whatever your medium, a musician, copyrights, they protect works of authorship. So whatever you create in your mind, you're copywriting that, right?
Mhm.
And then a patent that protects your inventions or the methods of how you do something. So one of the stories that I really love to talk about is Lonnie Johnson. He
Mhm.
was a black man.
The
He is
Super
an
Soaker guy?
engineer. Yeah,
Yeah.
he developed the Super Soaker. He had the patents, and Nerf basically tried to steal his plans and not pay him. And he took them to court, had his patents in order, and Lonnie Johnson got $75 million. So
That part.
yes. So making sure that your intellectual property is protected is really important. I'm sure you guys hear all the time of creatives out here, particularly people who are involved in fashion, having their ideas stolen, because fashion, it's really hard to protect protect fashion because it's something common, it's something you wear. So that's why brands like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Chanel, they're so protective over their brands because it is easy to lose your distinctiveness out in this marketplace. We all know that there's knockoffs everywhere, right?
Mhm.
So that's why these especially these upper echelon brands, they're very protective over, who has access to their materials. Like I'm in a lot of crafting groups, and I see these girls, and they have like Louis Vuitton materials and Chanel, and I'm like, girl, off what the back of what truck did you get that? Because I know that you don't have a contract with Chanel or Gucci or any of these people, right?
Right, right, right.
Um, so yeah, make just being very careful with your intellectual property is a big thing. And contracts, people, please, 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 please. I just had a client who reached out to me who lost several $1,000s because they did not have a written contract. It's
Mhm.
in because again, the barrier to business is low. A lot of us are doing business with, our peers, maybe our friends, people we know, and we're just like, oh, I know them. I don't need to write it down, or we have it in an IG thread. You need a written contract so everybody knows what's expected of them, so there's no misinterpretation. I don't care who the person is. I don't care if it's your pastor, your husband, your child. I'm about to go, do some ventures with some very close friends of mine, and we were talking yesterday. We're like, okay, we got to get our joint venture together. And these are people I've known for over 2 decades. But because we understand the nature of protecting ourselves and also protecting your friendship,
Mhm.
because having that there will eliminate a lot of arguments, we're going to have our joint venture. So those are the big mistakes that I see.
Yeah. Um, I like your example about cash money and being able to trademark.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is my favorite story. We all know, Cash Money. They had their song "Every Time I Come Around." You'll say they bling
Bling
bling.
bling.
What about right? And baby, Birdman, whatever you want to call him, he did an interview one day. Like that song blew up. To this day, everybody uses the word bling. Baby said, had he known that bling would have blown up so hard, he would have trademarked it. And it's so common now. He can't do it. Right? It's a common word now. Same thing happened to Sheree Whitfield off of Real Housewives of Atlanta. She had her famous phrase, "Who gonna check me, boo?" Sheree did not bother to trademark it in time. You had people making "Who gonna check me, boo" t-shirts and stuff, to the point that it is generic. And Sheree had to partner with Hanes to make t-shirts for her own phrase. Yeah.
Wow.
It's really important to get your intellectual property in order. And another mistake I see, this is mostly something I see on reality shows, and I guess it's because these people don't have any business savvy. Purchasing an LLC of someone's business name doesn't mean that you purchased their business. It just means that you named your business the same thing. I have seen on reality shows people coming, they're like, I don't know, they're trying to be petty. They're like, well, I filed the LLC for your business name, so I own your business. No, you don't. You just started a business with the same name. This person can go and change the name of their business and go on about their day. All right.
Right.
Having the LLC in the name does not mean that you own the business. Thank you.
Okay. Now that's straight. That's that on that.
Yeah.
And talking about the contracts, what types of clauses need to be in the contracts as a protective nature for the business owner?
Well, the main things you need to know, the three main parts of a contract are offer, offer, consideration, and acceptance. Offer is, hey, I will do this for you for X amount of dollars. X amount of dollars is the consideration, and then you have to have the other party accept, right? So let's just say for this interview, I was being paid. I'm not being paid. Andrea's my girl. That's why I'm here.
And we appreciate it.
So let's say Andrea was like, "Hey, Natalie, we would like you to be a guest on the podcast for $50,000, right?" Andrea has made me an offer. She has offered consideration of $50,000. I can't just show up and say, "Okay, pay me my $50,000." I have to say yes. I have to accept in three different ways. I either have to expressly say yes. I have to what is called implied acceptance. So if I show up on the date of the interview and I do the interview, that is implied acceptance. And then there's also ongoing acceptance. If you have like an ongoing relationship with your lawn guy, they don't have to call you every time they're going to come. They just come every 2 weeks or whatever, right? Express, yes, I will do it. Implied, you show up to do it, get it. Then there is conditional acceptance, meaning, yes, I'll do it, but. So maybe, yes, I'll do the podcast, but I also want Starbucks coffee when I show up, So 3 types of acceptance: express, implied, and conditional. And
then, go ahead.
So once you have offer, consideration, and acceptance, those are the 3 main parts of a simple contract. Now, when you're going into the nitty-gritty, the things that you want to lay down in a contract: money, who's getting what and when, right? What everybody's responsibilities are. Let's say, you are contracted to make something for someone. The client needs to know when does the deposit need to be delivered? Is the deposit refundable? When is the last day they have to contact you for a refund? What else? What is the return policy? What is now a lot of people are getting into force majeure clauses because remember COVID hit and things went sideways. No one saw COVID coming, and a lot of contracts could not go forward because everything was shut down. And there were no clauses in the contracts for a global pandemic. So people were just trying to work it out. So now you're finding a lot more people who are adding, force majeure clauses that will cover them, in case catastrophes happen.
Mm.
Yeah.
And how about I had a friend who had a situation where she wasn't getting paid and found out like this is why you have to have the other person's address on the contract so you can then seek them out if they need to be served with
Right.
something or anything
Your
like that.
your contract, when you see a standard contract, it's going to say, these parties so and so of whatever address and so of whatever address. If you don't want to put your address on the paper, I'm going to be like, what's going on? Why can't I find you?
Right, right, right.
So you want to make sure that your contracts have people's contact information, payment information, your grievance, how you're going to settle your grievances. Are you going to go straight to court or are you going to go to mediation? What else? We want non-disclosure agreements so that you're not, spilling everybody's business everywhere. Um, and you also want a clause because sometimes you might get a contract with someone and then they just completely make it impossible. Like they just like won't do anything to help you fulfill your end. But in a lot of contracts now, they have clauses that say, both parties will, do their best to help the other complete the task or whatever. So those are the major things. Now, it varies from profession to profession and service to service, but those are the main ones that you'll see in any standard contract.
And what does it take? I mean, whether it be somebody infringing on your intellectual property or not fulfilling a contract to go after those entities. You know what I mean? You've got to get an attorney and file what? Like, what are the courts asking for?
Okay. So if we're talking about intellectual property, somebody's using your trademark or using your work without your permission, you send them a cease and desist. Now that can be something you send personally or something you hire an attorney to do for you. But the cease and desist basically says, hey, you're out here using my stuff and I didn't say you could, please stop or I'll have to, take legal measures. So that's the cease and desist. If they don't respond to the cease and desist, then you can turn to legal measures, which is when you're definitely going to need an attorney, to file for trademark infringement. In terms of violating a contract, again, you can file for, depending on the amount that the contract is for, you can file for yourself. You can go to small claims court, but if it is a significant amount of money, you're going to want to hire a contract attorney, or a business attorney who's going to be able to help you parse all of this out.
When it comes to that, I also heard, and tell me if this is true or not, that you really need to get an attorney to file for trademark and things of that nature because if you get it wrong, like it's hard to go back to fix it. Is that true?
Right. Yes, there are a lot of nuances to trademarks. Like you need to know what category of goods are you going to file for. Is this going to be the final iteration of your trademark? Because people revamp their trademarks all the time. Who's involved with it. So you really want to make sure that you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed because the government is not going to give you your money back. And it's a lot of money for some people.
Mm.
The standard application is almost $400, I believe. And while that may not be a lot to some, it may be a lot to others. So you don't want to waste, $400 on an application that's going to be rejected. Also, if you get pushback from the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, and they're like, "Hey, we have a problem with your trademark application because of such and such," then you, excuse me, you would need an attorney to help you to help you compose your answer. You may need to submit specimens and then doing it in the appropriate way. And then there's just a lot of legal jargon, and I understand that legal jargon, it scares a lot of people. So
Hmm.
part of what I do in my services is I feel like I'm kind of an interpreter because what I do is I take the legal jargon and I just break it down to plain English so people
Hmm.
understand what's going on. And having a legal professional there to help you do that, it helps a lot.
Do you think that people should? I mean, obviously, you need to have the business type, whether it be the LLC, S corp, C corp, all sorted out. But before they start selling their goods, should they already have the trademark in place? Should they have all of those things together
No,
before they go to the marketplace?
no, I mean, you can start because maybe it's a side hustle. Maybe it's not something that, you're trying to turn into a full-time business right now. You're just trying it out. So, you try it out, you see if it's actually something that's going to, be beneficial for you. Now, once
Hmm.
you start, hey, I might be able to live off of this. Yeah, you're going to want to start protecting your assets.
Hmm.
And now your intellectual property, you may not want to file your trademark right off the bat, because again, you may change it. One of the things that I tell people when they are starting out is, if you have not filed your trademark yet, if you're not sure you want to file, when you're using your mark in the business place, you put a small TM in the upper right hand corner. That does not give you any legal protection. However, it lets people know in your industry, it's like, hey, I'm, working on getting this trademarked. So this is just to let y'all know that this is mine. But again, there's no legal protection. So if somebody wants to go and, yank it up, they can kind of do that.
Hmm.
But the TM at least lets people know that you have plans or are in the process of getting it protected.
Um, you're really good about taking like different headlines and kind of breaking down where you're saying you're like a translator, right? Like breaking down. What are some of the things that you've seen over the past year, 2 years? You've given us a few examples, but what are some others just so people can like apply it to themselves of what's happened more broadly, maybe celebrity um,
I'm trying.
situations
I'm
where
trying.
they've kind of gotten caught up because they didn't have
Um,
all of their ducks in a row.
Actually, it's not a story, but it's more a series. While I don't particularly care for them as entertainment, the Kardashian Jenner clan is such a case study in branding and trademarking. Like this family has hundreds of trademarks. And it's incredible. I have to give that to them. Their momager, she has made sure that that name is going to live on for quite some time. I'm trying to think one more story that has always stuck with me. The one that stuck with me. Oh, this is one. Like I said, just because the trademark office says no doesn't mean it's the final answer. I remember Lizzo was trying to trademark the phrase 100% that bitch. She had to go back and forth with the USPTO like 7 times before she
Mm.
finally got it. So please don't ever think that no is the final answer with the USPTO. It's just about writing, the best argument.
Wow, I didn't know she owns the freight. I didn't know she owns it.
It was a little, it was not a little bit of a fight. It was a big fight with the USPTO, but she finally got it.
And what are some of the things though that I think that's the part that's hard where it's just like I'm using maybe words that people maybe I put it together a little bit differently, but knowing what you can trademark in terms of like phrases of you know what I
Um,
mean? Just
it
saying
may
like,
not
"Oh,
al-
I need to protect this phrase, it's mine." And you're like,
it may
"Nobody's
not
ever said it
always
before."
be it may not always be the phrase. It may be how you design it. So I had a client who, they got something trademarked. The words were generic, the name. However, they had a very specific design, a specific color scheme, specific fonts that allowed them to get that phrase trademarked for their business. So it's not
Mm.
just what, the words themselves, it's how it looks. So if you look at how Disney, that font, the way they do that, that's
Mhm.
very specific to Disney, right? So
Mhm.
when you are thinking about trademarks, you don't just want to think about the name, you want to think about how it looks. You want to think about the color scheme. You want to think about, what like just what is going to make it distinctive. Yeah.
Got it. Got it, got it.
Yeah, don't
Well,
build
as
your brand off someone else's back. Another quick story. This guy, he tried to register. So we all know the brand, the North Face.
mhm,
This guy had a clothing store in North Carolina, I believe, called the Trap Face. It was the same color as the North Face logo,
mhm,
just a little bit different font and a little bit different design. And North Face went after him, and he had to change his business name. He had to take down the sign, and he is forbidden from selling any North Face property ever.
Oh, it's like that
Yes.
wasn't worth it for him.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Well, our last segment is called Act Up. And those are my initials. And it's the things that people can do today to get them from where they are to where they want to be. So they want to start a business. What can they do today to protect themselves? They may even already have the products and all that stuff, but what do they really need to make sure today that they have in place to protect themselves?
At the very least, you want to set up, if you don't have a business bank account, set up a separate personal bank account that you run your business transactions out of, because that way it's easier to track money that's coming in and out. So maybe you don't want to register as an LLC. Maybe you're doing it as a sole proprietor, but you can still have that information there, so when you take it to your accountant, you can get your deductions.
Perfect. Perfect. And tell us about your services. You got a lot of services and how you
Big
can
deal.
help people because Natalie really makes it easy for folks. She makes it so, so easy. She breaks it down. As I said, I was like, hey, girl, I have this idea thing. I don't know. And you walked me through it because remember, I almost put my
Right,
social
right.
security number in a wrong
Yes,
like website that looked like a government website but wasn't a government website, and you're like,
yeah.
wait, that's not
Mhm.
right.
Oh, that's another thing when you're dealing with trademarks and stuff. If you file it by yourself, you're going to get a lot of junk mail that's going to look real, and you need to know how to, figure out which one's actually real and which one's not.
Hmm. Yeah, because I almost
But
got.
in terms of my services, so what I do is I guide people through the business formation process. What I do is I create a plan for you. I tell you, here are the steps that you need to do. Here's where you go get your EIN number. Here's where you go file in your state. Here's the form. Here's how we fill it out. Here are the steps you need to take. And then if you want the added step, I will sit with you and we will do the whole process together. But the entire purpose of my service is not only to get the business registered, but to teach the business owner how to do it, because most entrepreneurs are going to start multiple ventures in their business life, and you don't always want to have to come back to an attorney and pay all that money when somebody can teach you how to do it you know
Hmm.
um and then also it helps to streamline the process, because there are a lot of different pieces that you have to go through. So I help people through the business formation process, getting your business entity set up, making sure you have appropriate contracts for clients and partners, getting your EIN numbers and DUNS numbers. I don't just get you the EIN number. I show you how to do it. There are people out here trying to charge you $125 for an
Yes.
EIN number and won't even show you how to do it. I show you how to do it. As well, securing your intellectual property with trademarks and copyrights. I don't do patents because you need a special license for that. Um, but I can refer you. And also helping you figure out your hiring and training strategy, because the last thing you want to do is be sued for discrimination because you don't have a uniform strategy for your employees.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be setting up a call soon.
Reach out to me. I am on Instagram, NPL Consulting Firm. And on Facebook, NPL Consulting LLC, I think. I can't remember it. But just look up NPL Consulting. I am there. I am DM me if you want to set up an appointment. I was taking a little bit of a hiatus to handle some personal issues, but your girl's trying to get back in the saddle. So if you want some of this good lawyering over here, reach out to me over at NPL Consulting Firm.
Yeah, and she can help people all over, no matter where you live.
Yes,
You can help people
because
all.
my service is, I am a guide. I am not doing the process for you. I am guiding you and assisting you so that you can learn to do the process yourself.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you give, like, for me, you're like, okay, where are we setting up the business? And I was like, okay, am I going to set it up in Maryland? Am I going to set it up in New York? And I was trying to figure that out. And then once I was like, okay, I'm going to do it in New York, then you're like, all right, these are New York's rules.
Right.
Like she'll give you a sheet saying these are all the rules. These are the websites. These are, just consolidated all in one place. So I remember when everything came through and I got you know, and I was like, look, Natalie, look, I got all my paperwork, girls, for real.
Real business.
For real. It's real. Now time to go make money. But I thank you so much just for being on this podcast and for all the help that you gave me, because it's just like, I wouldn't have known who to call, and just to say, you know, like, oh, my girl does this, you know, because we know each other in like school capacity and, you know, whatever, but you don't always know, like, oh, this is what your friends do.
Well, I'm so happy that you reached out to me to help you start your business and for this podcast. Like this is something that I really love to do. Entrepreneurship is, I really feel like it's the best way for people to, you know, change their fortune. You know, it's something that you can do yourself. You don't need anything but your ingenuity, you know, and grit to really make a difference in your life. And I'm here to try and make that an easier process.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you.